Alright, welcome back, audiophiles. Today we're going to work with Premiere Pro a little bit to do some video editing, but also to mainly focus on the audio aspect of Premiere Pro. In today's lesson we're going to talk about the general layout of Premiere Pro's audio tracks, how you can add audio tracks, mute tracks, remove tracks. You can change the time, add effects, speed up and slow down tracks in Premiere Pro as well. And lastly, I'll show you how you can export your videos so you can put everything together and make one nice video audio compilation. So the first thing that you should have done is get the screencast videos that you want to use in your project. You should have at least 3 different videos, just so that way you can see how you can move around tracks in the video realm. We're going to open up Premiere Pro. To open up Premiere Pro, you can click down here on the bottom left to your Start menu and simply search for Premiere. If you type in PREM, you would see Premiere Pro that shows up if you have it installed. If you don't have it installed, you would need to install it first in order to get to this point. So we've opened up Premiere Pro, and now we see this is our first window. This is to create a new project in Premiere Pro. So I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to call it Audio Project Compilation. You can change where it's going to be saved to by filling out where it says name up here. And then you can change where it's going to save the project to right here where it says location. So with location you can press browse and you can pick a place where you'd like to save your project. I'm going to save it to the videos folder. So I'm going to click right here on videos under this PC and I'm just going to save it there. Select that folder. There's a bunch of other things that you can do to change settings, but for today's project we don't have to do anything. We're just going to press OK. So it's going to create a project here for you, and we're going to primarily be working with some audio stuff with our Premiere file. But first I'm going to show you the general layout of how Premiere does what it does. Most of the time Premiere is used for purely video editing, but in this case we're going to use it alongside our audio skills to kind of show you that a lot of the stuff that we learned in this class can be used in different programs, not just in FL Studio, not just in Audacity like we've worked with, but we'll talk about Audition and Premiere because those are highly sought after skills to have. So when you open up Premiere, you're going to see that there's a few different things up here on the very top. You're going to see Assembly, Editing, Color, Effects, Audio, Graphics, Libraries, and Titles. These are all the different things that Premiere can do. Typically it starts off on the very far left over here with Assembly. So we're going to go into Assembly, and where over here where it says Import Media to start, if you double click in this area right here, you can load in files that you would like to have played. So I'm going to find the file that I just recorded. It's in my Videos folder. Anything that you screencasted with the Windows game bar is going to be in the Videos folder under Captures. So if we go there, we should be able to see the different files that have been recorded. So I'm going to first start off by grabbing the file I just recorded. If I can find it, here we go. Perfect. So you're going to want to put your video files in here, but you're also going to want to put in the sound files that you recorded or that you want to put in. So I'm going to find a file here. From our class. grab a video track here, another video track for my captures. Alright, so you should have 3 video files and you should have an audio file. If you don't have those things, then you're going to want to add a little bit to your project to make it interesting. You should have 3 different video files and you should have at least 1 audio track for this. We're also going to be adding some sound effects to the audio file so you can see how you can use multi-track editing, very similar to the arrangement window in FL Studio. Right now though, you should have all the videos that you're going to use in sound files all loaded up in your assembly view over here on the top. You can load them up into this area right here. So now I have these 3 different videos. I have Most Extreme Elimination Challenge, I have some breakdancing, and I've got some Moving Like Bernie clips. So we're going to use these in conjunction with an audio file that I have here. We're going to show how the timeline is used and the audio functions are used in Premiere. So first, let's talk about how Premiere does what it does. It uses something called the timeline, which is very similar to the arrangement window that we use in FL Studio. The main difference is that FL, everything is audio based, and in Premiere you have audio tracks and you have video tracks. So I'm going to drag one of these files over. I'm going to grab this Most Extreme Elimination Challenge video. But before I do that, you'll notice that in the arrangement window right here, if you hover over the icon of the video that you have and you just kind of move your mouse over the icon, you can actually see what happens inside that video. You can see on this bottom part right here there's a blue bar. If you track your mouse over that, that will show you the point of time in relation to your mouse in the video. So right here I'm about 3/4 of the way through. Here I'm about halfway through. Here I'm about 1/4 of the way through. So it helps you to see what it is inside your video, the different things that you can find in your video. So I'm going to grab one of these tracks and I'm going to drag it onto the timeline area, which is down here. I'm still in the assembly view. I'm just going to grab one of these videos. I'm going to click on it and drag it into my my timeline down here. And when you do that, you're going to see that suddenly things have changed. You're going to have a video show up in the top right, and your timeline is now suddenly going to be a little bit different. And let's examine how this timeline works. The timeline has 2 portions to it. It's got a video section here up on top, the V1, 2, and 3 sections. And it has audio sections which are down below, the A1, 2, and 3. You can think of this as your arrangement window in FL Studio, where we could move clips to play at certain times and we can move things around. You can do that same thing here in Premiere, except the top portion above this line right here is going to be your video tracks, and then the bottom portion is your audio tracks. If I clicked and just dragged one of these things like this video track right here, you'll notice that the audio moves with it. As I move this track around, it kind of has the audio linked to the video. So when I move it around, I'm not going to accidentally throw it out of sync and make it not work anymore. It actually sticks to the video. And I can change that if I hold down Alt on the keyboard and I click on one of these things. Now I can choose just that one thing, so I can move around this audio track separate to the video track. And if I move it off of sync, you'll notice these red numbers appear that let you know that the video is coming in 17 seconds, in this case, before my audio track. If I move it around, you'll see those numbers change. But that's just to let you know that the audio track is out of sync with its video track. In this case, I don't want my original video's audio tracks at all. I'm going to take them out. to do that, I could put them on one track. Like right here, I have everything on this audio 1 track. If I wanted to mute this track, just like in FL Studio, I can mute the track by clicking on a button over here on that track itself, which is this M track. If you click on the M, then it will mute all of the audio that's on that track. So basically, I took out the audio of this track. You can do it this way by selecting the track itself and muting that track. Then if I ever wanted to hear the audio again, I could unmute it. It isn't totally destructive. If I wanted to just completely remove a track though, like let's say I know that I never want to use the audio to this, I could also hold down Alt and click on that audio track and press delete on the keyboard. And that would make it to where just my video is going to show, but not my audio. Something that's important to note, you can press play on your video by either pressing the space bar or pressing this play button that's right here on your video stack right here underneath the video preview. So if I press play, I can see that my video should begin to play. Right now it has no audio. I took the audio track out instead, or you could also mute the track if you didn't want it that way. But I have video now showing up here. I just don't have any audio. Let's talk about how we can input some audio. So the first thing we can do is we can just click and drag from the area where we imported all of our materials. I can grab the audio track and just drag it down into that section here. And if I do that, you'll see that an audio track appears. And it's a waveform just like what we used in FL Studio. You can see the waveform there. If you wanted to zoom in on one particular section, you can do that with the scroll bars that are down here. You're going to see a scroll bar over here on the side. If you want to grab one of these circles on the side of the scroll bar, you can click and drag that to basically zoom in on one section. So here I'm zooming in on this waveform. You can see that the waveform has two sections to it. It's got a top section and a bottom section. And those are actually the speakers, the left and right speakers that you can see, each waveform that would play through the left and the right. In this case, basically it's identical. You can see that it's listed as L and R over here. That's telling you those are the left and right speaker channels. So now if I go back, if I grab the playhead is this blue line right here, which basically tells you what point of the video you are in right now. If I grab the top of this playhead where there's this blue kind of flag thing sticking out, I can drag that to the beginning of my video file, and now if I press play, it's going to have this sound included. Alright, so if I wanted something to happen right there, I wanted to have this kind of eerie music come in, and right when this happens, I can have a sound file play. To do that, I could go right to my playlist right here, where my playhead is. I know that that's the moment in time where this happens, because I've stopped my playhead right at that point. You can also go backwards or forwards with your playhead by using the right and left arrows on the keyboard. So basically I can go right to the point where I want a sound to play, and now I could put in another sound file on a different audio track down here. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to load another sound file in. Let me find a sound file here. We have a bunch of sound files that you could use. If you go to our Johansson folders, in our Johansson folders you go to our class folder, which would be the digital audio class folder. In there you'll see under samples, you'll see that there's a whole bunch of sound samples that you could potentially use. There's abstract stuff, there's ambient stuff, drum tracks, pro scores, swishes. There's also different sounds like an explosion. I'm going to take this explosion fast wave and load it in. And this is a sound that I can use for this particular sound. So I'm going to drag this sound file from my project files here. I'm going to drag this right up next to the playhead. And now it's going to play this sound right as this at this moment in time. When this playhead reaches this point, it's going to play this audio file. Let's see how it sounds. Perfect. Alright, so this is a way for us to sync up video to our sound files, and any sound files that we make we could load up into this program to do some scoring. Now let's talk about some actual audio things that we can do in Premiere, because we have a lot of audio capability in FL Studio, but we're not as familiar with Premiere as we are with FL. So let's look at some of the basic things that we can do. If you right click on one of these audio files, like let's say I want to use this main music file right here. If I right click on this, you're going to see a few different options under audio right here where it says audio gain and audio channels. If you click on audio gain, this is how you can do a very basic adjustment to normalize or to increase the volume level or decrease the volume level of the sound that you have loaded up. So you could adjust gain right here, or you could normalize, just as we did in FL. You can normalize either all of the peaks in a file or just the max peak in a file to match a certain decibel level. If we wanted to bring it up in volume, all we'd have to do is normalize all of the peaks in a sound file to a certain number, usually not 0. You usually want to leave a little bit of headroom, so we could say negative 1.5 or 1. That would be fine to leave a little bit of headroom, but also you can make sure that all of your maximum peaks in your sound file aren't too soft to where you wouldn't be able to hear it. This is basically the normalize function that we use in FL. So how did I get to it? Once again, you can right click on the audio file and then you zoom in to audio gain, click on audio gain, and from there you can either adjust the gain of the entire file to make it louder or softer. If you wanted to make it louder, you could put a positive number in here. If you wanted to make it softer, you could put a negative number in here. If I wanted to change the peaks, you can do that here. The normalized max peak will only take the loudest sound file and normalize it, or the maximum peak. If you wanted to normalize the entire file to make everything louder, then you can normalize all of the peaks right here. And just make sure that when you do this, you put a little bit of headroom in there. Don't normalize it to 0. You usually want to leave at least 1 decibel, usually 1.5 decibels. Alright, so those are the normalizing functions on here. Let's check out the other audio functions that are in Premiere. What you can do is, if you go here to the audio section and click on audio towards the top of Premiere, it's going to show you a slightly different workspace. You'll still see your timeline, so that's still the same. You'll still see all of your project files, which are over here on the left, but now you're going to see a few other things. You're going to see essential sound up here, and you're also going to see your preview for your video. And over here you're going to see basically a mixing board, very similar to what we have in FL Studio. Let's take a look at this mixing channel here. So as I play, you can see the levels that are coming into your audio. This is channel 1, there's channel 2. So if I wanted to make one lower, just like in FL, I could lower the mixer channel of one or the other of these files. So if I go here, let's say I want the explosion to be not quite as loud, I can click on the fader right here and drag it down. And now I have control over the audio levels of everything inside Premiere. I could also pan them to the left or the right. Just like in FL, there's a little panning knob here on the top. So I could pan this over to the right by moving this knob to the right. I could pan the sound effects here to the left. I'm sorry, this is my audio file, or my atmospheric music here, and then the explosion sound over here on the other track. So this lets me essentially pick out the audio levels for each track. Now this is on the left hand side and that's on the right. Cool, so we've got the ability to change our mixer levels. We've got the ability to change around panning. Let's see what else we can do with this. There's something that we can do called effects. Audio effects. If you go over here to the bottom left, to this section on the left, you're going to see that there is a there's a panel that says Effects, and if you click on the effects, you can choose audio effects that you'd like to add to your audio track. So right here, if you click on audio effects, we're going to see a whole bunch of them that we could potentially use. Some of them you may recognize from our previous work. For example, there's noise reduction, there's delay, there's band passing, which is like high and low pass filters, there's reverb, there's de-essing, low pass filters, high pass filters, there's compression, which we haven't gotten into just yet. We're going to do that soon. And there's delay, so we can, if I wanted to put some delay on that sound file of the explosion, I can do that simply by clicking on the delay effect here on that left hand side and dragging it onto my audio file. And if I do that, it now has the delay effect added to it. Now if I wanted to change more parameters on that particular effect, you can double click on the sound file, and then you're going to see the sound file up here show up. If you click on these little arrows right next to it, you can change what its effect controls are. So once again, how did I get there? I'm going to zoom in. First thing I did was I double clicked on the sound file that I wanted to edit. In this case, I'm clicking on this one. Then if you go into to the double arrows right here next to where that opened up, you can go to the effect controls of that sound. So now you're going to see this window pop up, and this is basically automation for this particular sound. I can change things over time if I want to using keyframes, but for this project you don't need to worry about that. You can just see that the effect that you added in is going to show up here. You can see that there's multi-tap delay that has been affected or added to this sound file. I can change how long it takes for the delay to show up. So right here I can see that there's one delay that waits about a half a second, and then it's going to play back at 0%, which is basically the exact same level as the original sound, but it's going to play a little bit quieter. It's going to play at -6 decibels. So when I play this, it's going to play back a few times because there's a few different delays here. That's why you hear it a bunch of times. If I wanted to change this and make it to where it doesn't show up a whole bunch of times, a bunch of different delays, I can just make the levels for the other delays less, or I could take them out entirely. Let's see about some other types of effects though. I'm going to click on the multi-tap delay in the effects section here and just delete it. Now it doesn't show up anymore. I pressed delete on the keyboard and it took that out. Let me try adding another effect in here, something that you may recognize. Let's try using a parametric equalizer. So I'm going to zoom in here. You're going to see that there's an effect here, the simple parametric EQ. This is just like what we have in FL. If you click and drag this onto that sound file, I can see what it's going to do. In its effects panel up here, I can see that there's now a simple parametric EQ. And I can play around with that. I can double click on it, and it shows me what the center is, what the boost is, all that stuff. I might want a more complex equalizer than this. Let me see if I can find a better parametric EQ. Here's a full-fledged parametric equalizer. I'm not going to use the simple one. Let's put the full parametric equalizer on here. And you can click on Custom Setup and go to Edit, and look at this. That's right, it's the age-old tool that we've seen before. It's the parametric equalizer. If I press play, you can see where all the sound files are, or where all the frequencies are being played in your parametric equalizer. Just like in FL, except we have it here so we can have it affect stuff to a video. So if I wanted to take the low end out, I could do that. Or I could take out the high end. So we have plenty of effects that are available to us in Premiere as well as FL. The main takeaway is that FL is for making music. That's its main purpose. And Premiere's main purpose is making video files. But from what you've learned before, just from the basic audio effects and things that we've learned there, you should be able to use a lot of the same effects in this file or in Premiere and be able to get very similar results to what you would in FL. It's just knowing the tools and where to find them. In this case, the one thing that I want to show you is how to change audio over time, basically automating audio in Premiere. And we can do that if we look at the timeline down here. There's a white line that shows up. If you look at it right here, over every audio file there's a little white line, and this shows you what the volume level of the track is. If you click on that white line and bring it up or down, you'll notice that it changes the fader on your volume level. Let me show the fader here. So here's all of my mixer tracks up here. If I grab this white line and move it up and down, you'll notice what it does is it's going to change the volume level of that track. So as I move this up and down, you'll see that the fader up here on that music track, or that audio track, changes. We can make it change over time. If you're in Premiere, if you right click on this, if you control click on this white line, you can add a point into it. So basically this is how you can add in fade points. If I wanted this to start off with no audio at all, fade out, and then fade in, and then maybe drop down a little bit, you can do that by adding these control points and then clicking and moving them. So this is how you can change the levels of audio over time in Premiere. If something was too loud in one section and you wanted to bring it down because you had another area where somebody was talking, that kind of thing. Just like in FL, we can use automation clips to change it. It's just using automation clips in Premiere is a little bit different. Oftentimes, if you're asked to work on a multimedia project, you'll probably make it in Premiere because it's a very ubiquitous program that is seen all over the place in the industry. So knowing how to find the basic tools of volume automation and effects in audio is very useful to know. And that's what this project is all about. The effects are going to be in a slightly different place than they are in FL, but they're all there. A lot of them are there at least. The mixer channel and the mixer board is in a little bit different place, but it's still there. And moving around clips in the arrangement window is very similar as well. It just happens to be down here in a different section. The video clips are played here above, and the audio clips are played down below. For this project, all you'll need to do is have a video compilation here with a different soundtrack that you add down below. So you can use a soundtrack that you've created before with a MIDI file. I'd like you to also add a few sound effects into your video that play at certain times. As far as the sound effects go, you can use your own sound effects if you'd like, or you could use some of the samples that you can find inside of our projects or inside of our sample folder. So once again, where is that? If you go to our Johansson folders, and you go to class folders, digital audio, and go to samples, inside here you'll find a whole bunch of different things that you could potentially use. There's explosion sounds, there's impact sounds, there's a whole bunch of different sounds that you can play with, so make sure you go and look through here and use at least 3 different sounds in your video project. You want to have some kind of music that happens, but also I'd like you to have 3 sample sounds that you just kind of drop in there so you have some idea how you could add different elements inside of Premiere. In this case I have the music track playing up here, but then I also have this explosion sound that plays at this point in the video. So have fun with editing your video. It should be something that you enjoy. I'd like you to make a project that you're proud of, so don't just make something for the sake of making it. Make it because you want to make it. You're going to have your video file that plays over the top. You're going to have at least 1 sound file as your score, and then you'll have 3 sound effect files that you play that go with your video. So what did we cover in this lesson? We talked about Premiere Pro, how you can add audio tracks, how you can mute tracks, how you can remove audio tracks by holding down Alt and clicking on something and then deleting it. We learned how to edit tracks by changing time. We learned how to add effects. We didn't talk about how to speed up or slow down tracks, so let's just show how to do that real quick. It's very easy. If I right-click on a file, it could be the audio file or it can be a video file. If I right-click on it, you're going to see an option right here called speed/duration. And if you wanted to click on speed/duration, you can change the speed at which it plays back. So I can make it play back at 200% speed to make it play back twice as fast. Or I can make it play back at 50% speed to make it take twice as long to play back. So this is how you can change the speed of a track. When you press OK, you'll notice that the duration of your track may have changed. In this case, it made it twice as long. So it takes twice as long to play back. You'll notice that it pitched down my sample. It isn't concerned about keeping the pitch on this particular example, so if you wanted to keep the pitch of your track but change its tempo, you would have to probably use FL Studio to do that. So if I wanted to change my duration back to 100, actually you wouldn't have to. You can maintain the audio pitch just by clicking on this little entry right here, and that would maintain the pitch that you want to it. Alright, so you should have all the skills you need in order to make this project. The last thing you need to do is export your video. So once you're all done with your video and you're ready to export it out, all you have to do is go up here to the top section of Adobe Premiere Pro, go to File, then go to Export, and you want to export the media. How would you like to export it? You're going to see this window pop up, the Export Settings window. There's just a few things that you want to change to make sure that everything works. The first thing is down here on the very bottom. You want to change the source range to be the entire sequence. So you want to click on Entire Sequence. And then up here towards the top, you're going to see something that says Format. You want to change that to be H.264. That's the MP4 video codec. It is good at saving space, but also retaining decent quality of images. So just make sure you change the format to H.264. Where it says output name, you want to click on this blue text right here, and it will allow you to save it in whatever location you want. So if I called this compilation video with music, I can choose where it saves to, so I can save it to the videos folder, which is what I'll select here. And now when I click save, it's going to save it in that location. If I hover over this output name right here, it will tell me where it's going to save it to. In this case, my OneDrive videos folder. Alright, so the last thing you want to make sure that you have export video and audio clicked here. It should be by default, so that's easy. If you wanted to publish this directly to your YouTube or your Vimeo or any of your social media accounts, you can do that if you click on Publish right here. You can make it publish directly to a whole bunch of different formats. You can make it publish directly to your Facebook account, to an FTP, to Twitter, to Vimeo, to YouTube. This kind of just bypasses the whole need to upload your videos. You can do it straight from Premiere, which can be helpful. Lastly, you might want to click on where it says Use Maximum Render Quality right here. Just click on the little checkbox, and then click on Export, and it should save your video to the location that you specified when you clicked on this blue link right here. And that will be the video that you turn into the assignment on Schoology. I hope you all have fun with this. If you need any help, just let me know. Have fun with your editing.